right, welcome to the Hostile Hour. You got Mark Southern here along with Money Mike, and
What's
then
that?
Buster H.R. Johnson. And Buster,
What's
what's the
up,
deal,
guys?
brother? I thought
What's
we
going
were
on?
uncovered today, no mask, but you're from parts unknown today.
Man, let me tell you something. We talked last night, and y'all kind of caught me out of nowhere to do this. And if it hadn't have been y'all, I probably would have told anybody else no. And especially the no mask, the uncovered thing. I sent you the picture, holding the mask, staring at it, my back. But the more I thought about it last night, do I really want to take the mask off? And you know what? 2023 is my year to speak my piece, tell my truth, and say what's on my mind. And we're going to start. That all starts right here. A lot of people already know what I look like, but here you go, guys. We're going to unmask Buster right there.
Buster Johnson.
Hey, unmasked, uncut,
Woo!
uncensored. What's on your mind, fellas?
Well, what's going to be going on, Buster? I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, man, it's been a while. I guess the last show we seen each other on was the Hey Ty show, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was.
Was Hey Ty or was it
It was Hey
Cook
Ty, put you gathers in the booth up there in the press box.
with Downtown Bruno? That's right.
That's right.
Tell you what, Mike, I had a blast doing
That
that.
was a good time.
I really had a great time there. I really kind of sparked something in me that I didn't realize. Man, I love doing color.
Yeah.
I really do. I love it. The first thing I thought about when you said, "Hey, you want to do color?" I thought about Bobby Heenan.
There
Oh
you go.
man,
So a lot
that's
of
the
people
game.
do color, but I grew up watching Bobby Heenan, all the WWF prime time, him and Gorilla Monsoon. Didn't matter who he was working with. When you're doing color, it kind of gives you the freedom to say whatever you want. Bobby Heenan would just make random stuff up, and then you got Gorilla Monsoon over here saying, "Come on, Bobby, you know that ain't true.
Yeah.
You're just making stuff up." I actually love doing the color commentary.
I had a blast. Me and you had a good connection in there. You got Bobby and Gorilla, JR and the King, Lance and Corey, and you got Buster and West Coast. I mean, you're in a long list of good stuff there, brother.
Dude, I really felt like we had good chemistry. That's the
Absolutely.
first time we really ever, that's really the first time we've had some conversations, but when you just take two guys and throw them together and say, "Hey, do this," I thought me and you did a great job for the first
Uh,
time. With a little
it's,
practice, I think we'd become a well-polished team.
absolutely. No doubt in my mind.
Mark,
Yeah, did a very good job, man. I appreciate y'all, man, helping American Hostile out and doing that. You go back and listen to it, and I did, man. And of course, we're trying to develop some shows later on down the line, get a lot of film together. That commentary was to go towards that, and you guys did a fantastic job, man.
Man, it was just the talent in the ring made it easy for us because, American Hostile, in my opinion, has got some of the best talent in the territory, hands down. And,
yeah, I think so too. I'll be honest with you. That's the one thing. One of the things I like most about American Hostile, I like the fact that you're easy to work with. I like the fact that Mark's easy to work for. I like the fact that Mark always makes a point to try to use the upper echelon talent around the area. There's a lot of great talent around here, but there's also a lot of not so great talent around here too. And just cause you can show up and you got some high spot boots and tights and stuff, and you can get in the ring, don't mean you should be in there.
You're
And
right, man. The art of psychology is gone bye bye in the world of professional wrestling, especially around here. The storylines, there is none. You and I are supposed to have a reason to wrestle each other, and
exactly.
people forget that. Let's go out and let's do our flippies and our get our little cheeries, and let's go home.
they wrestle from a pop the crowd standpoint. Anybody,
Mark brought me in, Buster, 6, 7 years ago. Dream come true. Here I am, a 42-year-old man when he called me up and told me about the story, and I'm just like, well yeah, what do y'all want to do it? No idea what the hell I'm doing. I'm not a wrestler. I love it. And when you love it and it's there, one of the smartest men in the business telling a story ever. He could have the crowd in his hand or have him chasing them out in the parking lot 100 miles down the road. That's the type of psychology that man's got in this game.
Well, I was always taught that even if you've got just one match and it's a one-off match, that's your however much time you have, you try to tell a complete little story during that match. You start here, you build them to here, and then you build them up and up and up and up. You take them up, you bring them up, you set them down. You bring them up, you set them down until you get them to the point where they're ready to explode, and you go until you finish and you pop. If you've done everything right, you pop them. Everybody's happy, but they also understand what they just seen. It wasn't like spot fest, and people gonna pop on anything. Wrestlers today wrestle, in my mind, wrestle more from a
self standpoint.
A physical. They think the moves and the spots is what. Just cause they get a pop from the moves and the spots, they think they're really touching these people and connecting with them. And it's not like that. Wrestling is just as much mental up here in your head. Wrestling's all about psychology. To me, I need to know why, I need to know who, I need to know where, I need to know how. I need to be invested in why I care about these two guys feuding. And I just don't see that no more. I just don't see that. And it's dying completely. It ain't the fact that there ain't some guys out there that still know how to do it, but there's so many more that don't and aren't taught that man, I'm scared. I'm scared 25 years from now, 30 years from now, there won't even be professional wrestling. If there is, it'll be more like a comic book or a, what would you call it, an action series or something. It won't resemble pro wrestling at all. Other than dudes will be in costumes, they'll have a ring, and they'll be doing moves. But to me, wrestling is all up here. Why? Why do I want to see this? Why do I care to watch this? Who are you? Why do I care about you?
But you don't even have to really take a big bump in the world of professional wrestling to get over it. If you can talk, you can move your body, if you can connect with their fans, whether you're in the heel, whether you're the face, whatever you want to call yourself, if you do it right, listen to the guys that have been doing this a while, and they're going to go places, and this business is interesting. But I want to do a triple somersault belly flash, wherever you want to go. Get the crowd involved.
And start out slow. Here's the thing. Now, if you've had a hot angle and the heel has done something dastardly to you the week before, and your music hits and you slide in the ring and y'all start off hot, I mean, that's cool because people understand why. But if you watch even matches like that, you might start off hot, but you then still have to slow it down. If you start off doing 450 planches and out to the ring, over the rail, into the crowd, how do you go backwards from that? You can't undeliver the mail. Once it's been delivered, you can't undeliver.
That's a great point there. All right, now let's talk about the snake in the bag here, Buster.
All right. What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Man, you made a little post, I guess, last night, kind of like a question, really, about EIW and whether they would be around in Trenton, Tennessee. And, they kind of went into Trenton, Tennessee, and TIWF and Randy Bird's been there a long time, man. You stepped on people's toes, heels, feet, hands, whole body, really, and went in there and tried to run a show. And, you just made a generic question, really. And in my opinion, some people got butt hurt. As we talked earlier back in the studio here, on Studio Bad Boy Land, Mark Southern in his studio, that if that was Pro Wrestling Illustrated asked the question, that they would have loved it. But since it's Buster R. Johnson, kind of got butthurt. So, Buster, let's address that and tell the people what you really meant, man. And we'll just get this shit straight right here.
Look, man, truth be told, to me, it was more like an editorial that a newspaper would do. Like I told you earlier, Sports Illustrated would have wrote that exact same article. The people who took offense to it would be running around bragging that they were mentioned by Sports Illustrated. Simple as that. It'd be a good thing for them. And I didn't try to bury anybody. Look, the whispers are out there. It ain't something I made up out of the air. People are talking. Are they going to survive? I mean, recently, from what I don't know nothing personally, especially recently, because I hadn't been there in months now. But I have noticed talent leaving, and to where they're to the point now where all their main talent they had is pretty much gone. Okay? They can say what they want, but the footage is out there. The attendance has been poor. They can try to fit it any way they want to, but when you see the pictures and the crowd, there's way more empty chairs than people sitting in chairs. If you got 40 people in your crowd, and you know that at least 15 of them got in for free with the boys, at least minimum. So what do you really got there? It'd say minimum of 15 out of 40. You got 25 paying customers. I mean, it is what it is. Talent's not going to work at a place that don't draw, and they're definitely not going to work at a place that they don't get paid because it don't draw. I don't know if they don't pay guys, but I can tell you this. I know from experience, when you're drawing those kind of crowds, your envelope's awful thin. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just as simple as that. And look, I mean, if people would go back and reread that story, I set these guys up. I put a line in there. Will they rise like a phoenix or be burned into ashes? It was just a question, will they make it? I did throw in my thoughts of the worst mistake they made, which was moving to Trenton. And I know that from experience. When me and my brother first broke into business, first thing we did, guys, we got trained, broke into business, bought a wrestling ring.
Hey, let's get some background first, Buster. Who's your brother and who trained you?
My brother's Sam Dollar. I was trained by Jeff Jarrett, Tony Falk, and believe it or not, a little bit by Eddie Marlin. You know,
there you go, people. So you're not just talking to some local outlaw guy here, guys. You're talking to somebody that knows his shit.
Yeah.
I ain't never been nobody. I've been on some regional TV around this area. I ain't never been a star. I ain't never been under contract. But I have learned from some of the best out there is to learn from. Guys who know this business like Motley Crue. Guys who know this business like Moondog Spot. Those are probably the two guys that taught me the most about wrestling. I learned more about pro wrestling after I actually got in the ring and started doing it than I did in training. You know, it's simple as that. We were trained. We were taught how to do the stuff, the move. And I was in early enough that they were still, kayfabe was still an actual thing. It was already slowly dying, but they still treated it like kayfabe. When they trained us, they didn't smarten us up. Now, later on, they've been there and they see that Jeff and them see that, well, this guy's stuck with it. Because you know how it is at a wrestling school. Guys come and go every single day, every single week. Everybody thinks they can do it until they get in there and start taking bumps. And then they figure out, well, this shit ain't for me. So, but they never smartened you up fully at all. I learned more from Motley Crue's in-ring stuff, matches, kind of how to put them together. And one thing Motley did for me more than anything, slowed me down. I was trained well, but I was young, full of piss and vinegar, big boy, strong, country fucking strong boy. And I looking back now, yeah, I was probably a lot stiffer than I thought I was at the time, but I've never got in the ring and tried to hurt anybody whatsoever. I've never got in the ring with intentions of being really stiff on nobody, but in my mind at that age, I wanted it to be physical and I wanted people to believe what they were seeing. You know, Moondog. I learned more about psychology. How to. I watched Moondog handle book shows and handle the backstage stuff, and he was a master at it. He was really a master at both. He don't get enough credit for being as smart to this business as he was. That dude could take nothing and turn it into a killer show. He could take a lot of talent that was, not to say he didn't have good talent, but just like now, he also had talent that, a lot of them maybe shouldn't even be in the ring, but he was also able to position them certain ways and do certain things with them that it worked. He knew how to make it work. But the most thing I learned from him was how to deal with the politics and how to handle backstage. What the wrestling business, the game is really about. Because most of the stuff I learned in this business that I know now is I learned I made those mistakes. You want to talk about going into Trenton, take it back to EIW. Okay, I put a little segment in there that I thought moving to Trenton was where it all started to end. It was the beginning of the end. I knew it was the beginning of the end for the simple fact that, like I said, when me and my brother Sam Dollar first broke into business, first thing we did was bought a wrestling. We figured if we got a ring and we can start renting it out, that'll help us get on shows. Makes sense. What we didn't realize is how this business worked, because we were both green. Nobody took us under their wing. We didn't have a big brother that was already in the business. We didn't have a daddy in the business. We didn't grow up in the business. We come from outside to in. So Brighton, Tennessee. David Milliken.
That's right. That's his show.
The belt guy now. He's the belt guy now. Then I think he was the kind of the apprentice guy to Charlotte.
The Brighton High School gym there.
Dude, look, we went to a show there and watched one of their shows. Tim White there, Sarge O'Reilly.
Danny B. Good, Derek King.
Good, yes, Danny B. Good. I don't think Derek was even there at this time. This was a little before Derek, I think. I don't think Derek had slipped into business yet. But anyway, we went and watched one of the shows, and at that time, there wasn't a show every Saturday anywhere other than Memphis, running every night of the week, There wasn't a show, and sometimes there wasn't a show, but every couple of months, 2 or 3 months even. So literally, you could be in the business a year and maybe only work. If you didn't work for Lawler and Derek, you might only work, if you was lucky, 4 or 5 times through the whole year, because that's just the way it was. There wasn't a company every 15 miles down the road like there is now, But we went to the show, talked to some of the guys, and they wasn't going to run another show for several months. So we thought, well, let's run a show there. Man, we printed up, back when you'd go print up the big cards, real nice cards. We put them up everywhere. Me and my brother's the funniest shit you ever seen in your life. We literally built wood signs. I don't remember what we were calling the company, but he's a carpenter, so we went and built 2 beautiful wood signs that then we went and put the company, the day the show was going to be on, set it up to where we could just come back and stick stickers over the number stickers and the month stickers over the year and the month.
I had one of them when I first started.
Dude, we went to their town, and on each end of it, we dug holes out of, like, as you come off of get off the interstate on the off ramp to go to Brighton. Right there, dug holes and planted these signs each side of town. Man, we got to that show, and I mean, we booked everybody. No big star, but all the guys. Tim White was booked. Danny B. Good. The Shannon brothers. I'm sure you remember them, Mark and Bobby.
That's right.
King Cobra was our star. He was the biggest name we booked. But we guaranteed everybody a certain little amount of money.
Mark knows King Cobra.
Hey, we guaranteed them all money. We got there and didn't draw 5 people. The town, look, it wasn't just the boys. The town shut us down. We looked around, and time we left town, our signs were already broke down on the side of the road. But that's how you learn sometimes in this business. Yeah. It was one of the best lessons we ever learned. You don't step in another man's town in this business and don't expect that they ain't gonna try their best to make sure to push you right back out. You just don't do it. It's offensive. We didn't know it then, but we were in the wrong. You know, in our heads, you can run a show anywhere you want to. If you got the money to rent a building, set up the show, pay the boys, nobody you can't tell nobody where they can and can't go. If we can put on a show, we can run the show. But that ain't how this business works. It's territorial as hell. It's I mean, it really is tribal in a sense. And back then, it was you're with who you work with. You know, you didn't jump from company to company. First of all, there wasn't that many companies. You worked for who you worked to, and you were loyal. And it's a good lesson learned. And I just knew that was the first mistake that was made. Originally, the idea was to move somewhere around the New Bern area, Ridgely, somewhere like that. There was a couple of other little names that were popped out, and then all of a sudden, we're moving to Trenton.
Well, they got a great deal on that building there, about 6 months free rent. So,
Dude, that building needed so much work just to get in it. And here's the fact of the matter. Me, if I'm going somewhere and I'm going, especially lease a building, take a lease, sign a lease with somebody on a building so that I'm going to run wrestling inside every week, I'm not going to rent a building that I can't put at least 300, 400 people in for the simple fact that that's another mistake they made. By renting that building that was so small, they guaranteed themselves that they couldn't grow any. Once they got that 125 people, maybe, that was as big as they could get unless they. Now, there was talks about knocking out some of the walls and expanding it, but it just never happened. You know, there was just some mistakes. I think a lot of it had to do with, you know how it is. You shut down one place, and as a promoter, you're anxious to get back open so people know that, hey, we ain't out of business. And, you know, I don't know none of the personal aspects of how it actually come about with Trenton, but I just think they were led astray. And I think they let themselves be led astray. And look, Trenton might have been fine. I wouldn't have done it, but if that's what you want to do, go give it a shot. But the building, too, was one of the biggest nails in the coffin for them. They put a fence around themselves that they basically put a dog pen around themselves by renting a building that you could only put 120, 30 people in. You know, and now here's the thing. I have seen that building on fight night. The people run some kickboxing there one Friday night.
packed like rats.
Dude, but it was standing room. They probably got 175 people, maybe close to 200. But it was literally, you were like sardines in there. And they charged, if I'm thinking right, their tickets were $20 a piece.
That's right. Yeah.
You put 100 people, even at 100 people, you put $120 people in a building, well, you're doing all right, you know. You put 200 people in a building at $20 a piece, you're really doing good. You know, but here's the thing. Wrestling don't draw like that. You know, some places it does, some places it don't. If they had been able to draw that kind of crowd every single week, it wouldn't have worked either, because wrestling fans want to be comfortable. Them people came there to see them fights because it was something that they never see. It was a one-off thing. It ain't like it was going to be every Saturday night. You start having wrestling fans crammed up against each other every single Saturday night. A lot of them, especially the older ones, are going to start filtering out because they don't feel like being all cramped up. You couldn't get to the concession stands. You couldn't get to the bathroom the night they had the kickboxing fights in there. And, I mean, and tickets were $20. So them people made a killing. They did real well, but you put 100 people, 125 people in there at $5 a ticket. I mean, here's my theory. I ain't going to put a damn wrestling show on and charge $5 a ticket unless I've got a building that's going to hold 400, 500, 600 people, and I know I'm going to draw them people. I know I'm going to draw 300, 400 of them or more. The way I look at it, when you put it out there and you tell people your tickets are $5, you're kind of telling them what you think about your own product. That's what you think it's worth. $5. And ain't no true wrestling fan. Here's the difference. You got a place here that's got a $5 ticket price. You got a place over here that's got an $8 ticket price. But this place over here has much better talent and much better wrestling. Any wrestling fan is going to pay that extra $3. They're not going to, fuck that, I ain't paying that extra $3. I'll go over here and watch this other show that ain't nowhere near as good. No, they're going to go on and shell out the money if they have it. Now, if they don't have the money, yeah, they might go to the $5 show if that's all the money they can afford. Ain't no problem with that. But if you got an $8 show and a $5 show, and this $8 show they know is way better than this $5 show, everybody's gonna come up with that extra $3. You know, even $5, $10 show. It's just, and you said to me, like I said, it gives away a lot of what you think about your product. Look, Randy Bird charges $5 a ticket, but he has for years. But he also can put 400 people or more in his building.
502. We work a match there.
Really?
Extra seats everywhere on top of the cage.
I was handcuffed that motherfucker. Had 9 people trying to hand me a key.
Hey, that's good. When you got a building big enough that you can literally charge $5 and make money if you put the people in there, that's cool. Because, I mean, you got to be able to make money. Here's the thing.
That's the bottom line. Money right there. You got to take care of your guys. If you got a gate that only 25 people are paying at $5, you're talking $125, man. That ain't shit.
No, and they're banking on that concession stand too. A lot of the shows have a good concession stand and make a little bit of money for them too.
Hey, let me tell you something. I didn't believe how much money the TIWF concession stand made.
Oh, for real? Fuck them concessions.
Dude, literally, before the show even started, you know, I went there and filmed for several months.
You can make $700-800 easy.
Man, look,
Easy.
me and my wife ran Paragould in 2006 and 7. We ran it for a little over a year. The one thing we figured out, you know, in the old days, your boys get paid off the door, and if you got concessions, you don't mingle them two. But the one thing we realized real fast was, and we were even charging $8 a ticket. You know, and we got to where we would have about 85 people minimum, and a lot of over 100 nights, regular nights, all the time. But still yet, if you want to pay your boys decent, one thing I figured out, that I have to mingle my concessions with the door so everybody can be satisfied. As long as I can still make a profit and pay my, you know how you do it. But even on the door, before I pay anybody, which all the boys know, first thing I do is pull my next. So we used to rent the Armory, pull my next week's rent out for the Armory. On concessions, the first thing I do is pull the amount of money out of that I know I need to buy back my concessions for the next week. And then you got your miscellaneous cards and posters, whatever you do, you got those expenses. So automatically you got to pull those off the top. So then you got to pile left. Well, you got to look around and the boys know if it ain't there, it ain't there. You know, if you get $5 in an envelope someday and you can look out there and know, you're probably lucky you got that $5 because the crowd was like that. Well, most boys, especially young boys who just started, they'll damn near pay you to wrestle. That's all they care about. They don't really care about the money. All they care about is wrestling. I want to get in the ring. Like I said, they'll damn near pay you to wrestle. Yeah,
we got a kid like that right now. He's driving 7-8 hours to come wrestle for us, and of course I pay him more than $5, but still, yeah, he wouldn't care if I didn't pay him shit.
Well, when you're young, that's the kind of guys you want because they got that passion for the business. They got the heart for the business. They want to make it.
Yeah, he can work too, buddy.
But you know, there's too many. Most of these shows have a mixture of good and bad. None of these shows, even the worst ones of them, there are good things on them sprinkled out here and there. And most shows have a mixture. Some shows are up on the higher echelon where you got better talent, it's run better. Well, obviously, it's more organized. Your show's going to be better. Your matches are going to be better with better talent. Simple as that. But there is a lot of bad. A lot, not just bad in the sense that this shit sucks, bad in that there's green guys in there that shouldn't even be in the ring yet, a lot of places, that truly don't know anything. I mean, look, one night in Paraguay, I used to go film the NWF. One night in Paraguay, we were in the back, and the question was posed, how many of y'all in here know what a small package is? There's about 8 guys in the back.
Something you get from FedEx, right?
Right. I don't know names because all these kids were good kids, but literally got like 8 different answers and none of them were right.
Wow.
They're in there trying to show you shit that, I mean, you don't even know what it is, and they think it's a small package, and I'm like, literally 8 different people, 8
out of about how many? What, maybe 20? Book 20 per show on average. That sounds about right. 15, 20 guys.
I would say most shows. How many guys you usually book, Mark? On your average, just on the average in general. I know some you have more talent, some you have less.
12, probably 12 to 14. Yeah.
See, if you got good talent that you can depend on and you know that's going to show up for you. I mean, emergencies always happen. This is wrestling. There's always something happen to somebody that they can't make it. But if overall they have a track record of being there, doing what they say, being there when they tell you they're going to be there when you need them, if you can run a smaller roster like that if you know you can depend on these guys. But a lot of these shows ain't like that. A lot of them are still guys just show up that ain't even supposed to be there, which that's every
That's right.
show.
Not even on the car, just show up.
And then even if these promoters have their show already lined out and it's leveled out, everybody knows what they're doing, they know what they're doing, what they're trying to accomplish, they'll start adding these guys in. Well, I mean, sometimes adding motherfuckers in there that ain't gonna help the fucking show ain't the right move to make. It's better to stick with what you got there and what you think is solid and what you think's gonna work. And if you like some of these guys, say, hey, show up next week or next month,
right.
and I'll try to get you a match. And then don't throw them in no angle. Throw them in first fucking match with a guy who can lead them. Not 2. Don't throw 2 of the same dude that showed up together the week before, and you like them both, so you told them, well, come back next week. Don't put them 2 dudes against each other. Even if you got to have one of your veterans wrestle twice, well, I mean, if he's a heel, let him come out and get over on one of these kids. Just so you can see what the kid does. But put him in there with somebody that's going to lead him along, and they can lead him along, and try their best to get a decent match. Because here's the thing, when that guy comes to the back, that vet that can lead him, and he comes to the back, he's going to be able to tell you immediately what he thinks. If he thinks this dude is worth even going, even if the match is fucked up, you can still tell whether a guy has potential to get there and might be good at it, because nerves are a hell of a thing in this business. You can be good and you can be a great wrestler, but when you're first broke in and you first starting to get matches and you're nervous as shit, you don't hear as good when somebody's trying to call a spot for you or lead you along. And guys now they don't hear the spot, they'll just go with it. Well, we was always kind of taught, and this is the stuff I learned after I was wrestling. If you don't hear the spot, don't go. If I got you in a headlock and you call something to me that I can't hear or that I didn't hear, then when you go to shoot me off, I barrel down back on that headlock, make it look natural, and I'll tell you, hey, man, I didn't catch that. And then we'll do it again. nobody's none the wiser. But you see people just take off, and neither one of them know what the fuck they're going to do then, you know. Guys going to throw a clothesline, another guy don't know if he's going to take it or duck it or don't know what the fuck he's supposed to do. And then everybody looks like shit. You know, I mean, the art of pro wrestling is pro wrestling in general is done, but the art is going fast, and that's what's killing the. That's the reason why pro wrestling is dying, because nobody concentrates on wrestles from a psychological standpoint. Man, my main move, my whole career, probably my biggest move would be a clothesline. You know, but it was a vicious clothesline. And I didn't have to try to do no back moonsaults or none of that shit. And I always was able to get out there, get over it, tell a story, and connect with the fans, whether bad guy or good guy. You know, you don't have to do, like you said earlier, I've seen some of the best matches where guys hardly even took bumps, but they wrestled from a psychological standpoint. That right there, to me, is why Jerry Lawler is one of the greatest in-ring generals ever, because everything he does is from a psychological standpoint, not a physical.
That's right. That's why his career is still going 50 years later in the wrestling ring.
Unreal.
And here's the thing. People want to say, well, he never left Memphis. If Lawler wanted to go anywhere in the world back in the day, if he wanted to go there and stay there, he would get over anywhere in the world, because he knows what pushes people's buttons. Look, that wrestling's mainly playground shit, real life shit, put in real exaggerated animated situations. But if you stick to the fact that a wrestling match is pretty well 3 o'clock high, you know, start the fight in the morning, set it up for after school, and then let it build all through the day, you know. And then you either have a killer fight or someone hauls ass and don't. I mean, but it's simple.
Watch out for foreign objects.
Really, it's psychology. It is not moves. It's not bumps. It's psychology. All them other things are just tools in our tool belt to help us evoke emotion out of these fans, connect with them, you know. But if you, like I said earlier, if you start out at 90 miles an hour, it's hard to go back to 20 and then start rebuilding. You know, even Flair, think about how many times Flair's been in hot angles with guys, and he's the dirty heel, and that babyface fight, Ricky Morton, slides under the rope and hits the ring, and boom, boom, boom. Flair's selling for him, bumping for him 3 or 4 times. Then Flair powders out, and they slow it down. Even if Ricky Morton throws him out and follows him, he brings him around. They eventually work their way back in the ring, and they settle it back down. And then they start rebuilding their match from start to finish to the climax.
And that's how you go 60 minutes.
I mean, here's the thing. Like I said about Lawler, Ric Flair is, to me, he's probably the greatest athletic champion of all time, because that's how he wrestled. Ric Flair told stories from the physical standpoint a lot more than the mental. He went in there and done the work, took the bumps, hundreds of them, you know, thousands of them. Jerry Lawler took bumps too, and Jerry Lawler can do a lot more than people think too. I ain't really never seen nothing he couldn't do, but he always wrestled from a mental standpoint. Doug McKay made a comment one day. Y'all know who he is?
Yes, Mississippi guy.
Me and him, we were, I don't know, it was a post about Lawler or something, and we were commenting back and forth, and he made a statement. He said, I said something, and he come back and he said, well, he said, Jerry Lawler makes you see things that didn't happen. And, you know, I thought about it, and that's the truest. I mean, nobody could have said it no better. That's Jerry Lawler's wrestling right there. That's psychological wrestling. He makes you believe you saw shit that didn't even happen sometimes, because of the way he puts the match together, the way he tells the story, the way he sells. I mean, it is what it is, you know. In my book, Flair gets all the credit. Flair's the GOAT. Hogan was the biggest star at one time. But
Stan Hansen was. I like Stan Hansen. I thought he was a pretty physical guy.
Look, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh,
Bam Bam Bigelow is a lot of how I saw myself. I portrayed a lot from Bam Bam. Bam Bam Vader, but believe it or not, I'm also a guy who loved Chris Benoit's wrestling, Eddie Guerrero's wrestling. I was a big guy who, most big guys, especially in the Outlaws, they just want to do big guy shit. I always wanted to get in there and run spots. You know, do all the things that the little guys do. You know, I may not be doing leapfrogs and shit, but I can set them up for leapfrogs and shit, you know. And Bam Bam Vader and Bret Hart, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. So Nick Bockwinkel. You know, going back to Jerry Lawler, I seen a comment Nick Bockwinkel making, and this is coming from Nick Bockwinkel. He said Jerry Lawler is the greatest ring general I've ever been in the ring with. Now, when Nick Bockwinkel says Jerry Lawler is the greatest ring general I've ever been in the ring with,
that's saying something.
Today's kids might not mean shit to them, but for my world, Nick Bockwinkel was the man. I mean,
Yes.
Nick Bockwinkel was one of the greatest there ever was at this.
Great matches with Lawler at the Coliseum, man. Woo!
Dude, man. All right, guys, what do y'all, I mean, we kind of touched on EIW.
Hey, you know, you're talking about stepping on territories and stuff. It was brought up, I guess, yesterday or day before, maybe even last week, that Southern Pro Wrestling out of Brownsville, Tennessee, will be moving over to Ripley, Tennessee. Of course, Ripley, Tennessee has been run a long time by Greg Anthony, who promotes Mid-South Wrestling out of Dyersburg, Tennessee, and Ripley. Ripley on Friday and Dyersburg's on Saturday. Opinions on that one there, guys?
Go ahead, Buck. I'll go after you.
Let's start off like this. First of all, moving anywhere for SPW out of Brownsville, I believe is a smart move. You know, here's the thing, and Randy Bird told me this. Randy Bird told me early on, he said, man, he said, Brownsville just won't draw weekly. He said, it's the kind of town that you hit a couple of times a year, no more than 3, really probably 2, and you'll draw a good crowd them times, but it will not draw rings because, you know, back in the day when they first started, Brighton was a town they ran. Randy ran. Brownsville, they ran Brownsville. And he told me that, and of course, I mean, I've seen that too. Moondog will tell you the heartbeat. You go to a town, it don't draw. You go back a time or two, and it don't draw.
Don't go back.
There are some towns that just don't draw for some reason. No matter what you do, they just won't draw. So, first off, anything.
I just think
Go ahead.
I'm going to say that for me, for SPW and the building they have on the inside is great. The setup is right on, it's perfect. But the location is what's hurting. It's just not set for wrestling.
Yeah,
you have to look at it. You really have to dig the map out and find it. And like you said, Ripley's going. If it's where you can see it, I believe it's going to be a good show. But he doesn't have any locations. I mean, I had to find that place when I went.
Yeah,
it was a good show.
I 100% they'll do better in Ripley than they ever have done in Brownsville. And as far as coming in on Greg Anthony, I guess it's back to Trenton and EIW and TIWF. I guess I wouldn't personally do it. Look, here was less than a year ago, you and Memphis Wrestling ran a conjunction show there. Had an awesome crowd. But you also had an awesome show. Awesome talent. Not to say SPW don't have good talent, but I'm going to tell you something. I was going to say it when Randy Bird told me that Brownsville will not draw. I know there are places like that, but in my head, I'm also thinking maybe if whoever's running it and booking it had the right shit going on, I'm always an optimist. I believe that if you put the right shit out there that people want to see, they're going to come see it. Now, granted, there are those towns that no matter what the fuck you put out there, just will not draw whatsoever. So the minute you know that you go there 3 times and you ain't improved your crowd, either you're doing something wrong with your booking, or you're booking in your town, or it's just one of those towns. Cut bait, move on to the next town, and see, because most towns will draw. Them ones that just won't, no matter what, are few and far between. SPW, I was there with them when they very first opened for about 8 weeks or so.
We were on the
Yeah, I
very
think I,
first show.
yeah, we were there the first show.
Here's my thing. I don't know who's doing the booking now. I do know that since I was there, they have really picked up some good talent, some a lot way better talent than they had when they started.
They
You know,
had a good locker room when we were there the first night.
yeah, but
It just had some technical difficulties.
y'all, Mark wasn't back, Rude wasn't back. Brody Hawk was there for him and his wife. Him and his wife were there for, I don't know, maybe 4 shows, and then all of a sudden they were gone too.
I'd like that kid, Jason Genesis. He was there, and that kid, he make kick to work.
Well, here's the
He's
thing,
got
though.
good ring psychology.
He
You
left
also
too.
you can't bring guys like that in unless you want to spend the money out of your pocket when you ain't drawing no fans.
Right, exactly. That's it.
See, one thing I learned from Moondog, and he was a firm believer in, I'm going to find me the right talent and build my own local talent for these people. And that's what he did. Look, you got White Lightning, even Big Daddy LaFont. In another promotion somewhere, Big Daddy was already too old to even, try to get in the wrestling business. But Moondog was able to take him, as old as he was, and his wife too, Miss Sandra, and done the right things with him and got him over there. I mean, I ain't saying that Big Daddy has the greatest wrestling matches, but the fact is,
He's over.
the people connected with him there. Same thing with White Lightning. So I'm a firm believer in, we start out and we build our talent, try to start seeing what we can draw on our own, because that's our real barometer. If we fucking bring talent in every show, and spending money, high dollar talent to come in to help us draw, what does that tell us? Do we really know how good we're doing? We know for a fact we're spending way more money out of our pocket than the show's paying for. If the show ain't at least paying for itself, it's time to cut bait and run, move on to something else, the next show or next town, something. And you just can't. SPW, I think their biggest issue is inexperience running a show and booking. I mean, that's my honest opinion. Here's the thing. The whole idea when it first started was for Will Sims. And look, I've been watching Will Sims since I started EIW. I love Will. He really is a hell of a talent in the ring. But he's young. I don't care how long he's been wrestling. He's young. And the main thing Will needs is he needs someone to direct him. He needs direction. He needs someone back there who says, hey, I want you to go out here and we're going to do this, but this only. Don't ad lib nothing. Don't go grab the microphone and go trying to talk. Let's do this. They wanted him to be the face of the company as a baby face. Man, to me, all you had to do with him was send him out there 6 or 8 weeks in a row, put him in there with decent enough talent where he can have good matches that he takes 65, 70% of and gets a good solid win. And then what you do 6 to 8 weeks later, you either pick the right heel that you put him in there with. They have a hell of a match, but Will flips over again, and then as soon as small package where the heel's not hurt at all, and as soon as Will gets up celebrating, that heel pops up and blasts him. Or you send him out there with another guy he's just gonna beat, and you run one of your good heels from the dressing room to attack him. Will's never had to say nothing over these 8 weeks. All he really had to do was go out there be in good matches, look great, look good, have solid matches that everybody could tell he was the star of, and get good wins under his belt. He never had to get on the mic. A babyface don't gotta talk. If you ain't in the angle, a babyface don't need to be out there saying a bunch of shit until he's got a reason to say a bunch of shit, you know. And I tried to give a couple of ideas to Mike, and it didn't take me but a couple of times to realize that they're going to do what they want to do, whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, because he thinks he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
Here's the thing. Let's go on and say it. I'm going to go and say that I like Mike. I really do. Me and Mike, when we do get around each other, we can talk. I like him as a person, but he does not know as much about wrestling as he thinks he does. It's as simple as that. I can't say it no more. Nothing against him. He does not know as much. He definitely don't know. He's probably better at booking the buildings, making sure concessions is right, making sure the posters are out. That would be more his forte than in the back trying to book the show and call matches, or being a referee or a manager. I mean, it's as simple as that. I'm not trying to piss Mike off. Like I said, I really like him as a person, but I learned real quick that, I mean, you offer somebody some advice from experience, and they sit there and listen to it. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. But then they go out and do exactly what they thought they should do, which is his company. So that's his prerogative. But sometimes you need to listen to people who's got more experience than you and seen this shit. Here's the thing. I stepped out of the business for a good while, over 10 years. The last match I had was 2009 until I come back and started filming. But I never stopped being a wrestler. I never stopped keeping up with the shit. I mean, I've got a track record of experience. Like I said, I've never been a star nowhere. I've been on some good TV. I've worked with some of the best people around, worked with some of the biggest stars around during the 90s. But I've never been a star nowhere. I've never been shit. But I absorbed all this shit that I've experienced and seen. And, you know, if somebody offers you a good idea, but you don't want to use it just because it's not your idea, then you're setting yourself up for failure, period. And, you know,
you call me if you got a good idea. Call me. I'll use it.
Yeah.
Here's one of the things that I love most. I'm hellaciously creative, and wrestling is always been my first love. Before anything else, wrestling was the very first thing that I connected with. And man, I hadn't just watched wrestling my whole life, even long before I got into it. Since I've been about 6 years old, my brother would go around and tell people, when he gets old enough, he's going to be a wrestler and I'm going to manage him. And that's exactly what we did.
Buster, I had a million ideas when I first got there with Mark. He would look at me, listen, and then we did it his way. And after that year went by, I understood what he was trying to teach me.
Here's the thing, like you said earlier,
it made sense why we never did what I would suggest. It was pretty fucking stupid. But as time went on, he would give me a chance, and then we would go, and I understood. But it was a year. I was in no rush. But I understood what he was trying to teach me, so I sat back and I absorbed every second of what I got to do. Who walks in and gets a chance to work in the main event and don't listen? You're an idiot. You better listen. If you want to be at the top of the card, you better listen. You got to listen to the guys that are there.
Like you said at the very start, you kind of broke into this out of nowhere. He's been doing this for years and years. A lot of times, good ideas aren't practical. Certain ideas, if you hadn't had the actual wrestling experience and seen how that shit may have played out 100 times before, been a great idea. It sounds great. It's kind of like it sounds great on paper, but when you actually go to put it in practical use, you realize it just don't work.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I got that when I sat back and analyzed everything going on. I was like, man, I've just been stupid if we'd done that, because what he was doing was he was telling this story, and the story played itself. And it didn't take a lot of effort, and we had one of the best angles in the history of in probably 10 years with Chico Mendoza that not very many people can get on top of and touch that. That one was pretty epic.
Well, and you had experience running the show. You had experience steering the ship. I mean, Mark's been around. When did you break in, Mark? You've been doing this at least 25 years, ain't you?
32 years.
32. Oh.
Yeah.
So I broke in late '91, started training. So we kind of neck and neck on this.
That's right. Yeah.
Wrestling is, you don't just come out of nowhere and know nothing about it and come in it and be able to do it. I mean, wrestlers, sure, you can be trained to wrestle, and there are guys. I picked up wrestling pretty easily when I started training, but I always went back to the very first. Most of the shit I already knew names of when you first start training, when they call out something and go to explaining something to you, well, here's just a top wrist lock. Here's how we do this. It's a top wrist lock. There's a difference between a top wrist lock and a wrist lock. You learn
and a wristwatch.
And from the wrestling school, I realized that all those years that I had been I wasn't no regular wrestling fan. I'm crazy about this shit. I had absorbed a lot of shit that I didn't realize I had. So Jeff says, hey, we're going to do arm drag deals. Well, of course, he shows you arm drag. So he shows you how to do it, what it should look like, and then let's line up, one guy in the middle, line around the ropes out of one turnbuckle, lock up, arm drag, lock up, next guy, arm drag, so on and so forth. In my head, all I would think was, I'd be in there with class, a lot of guys that when you said arm drag, even though he just showed you, they had no idea what an arm drag even fucking was. Like, even when you said arm drag, what it was even supposed to look like. You know what
I don't even know why in the fuck they was there then.
Well, they didn't last. Most
I wonder how many kids nowadays know what a fireman carry is.
Dude, I would be willing to bet nowhere near as many as should, but I bet you those same people, if you ask them what some stupid ass suicide dive, backflip plancha is, they know everything about that shit.
He got that right.
It is the truth.
All right, let's talk about all the organizations around here. I listed a few here. We'll just go through them and kind of do like some word associations, thoughts, comments, whatever. First one on my list is Mid-South out of Dyersburg, Tennessee.
It's a good show. It's well run. The only thing that I can see, and I've never actually been to a Pro Wrestling Mid-South show live, so I cannot speak from that, but just from the footage I've seen and stuff, I feel like it's just a little too uptight. You know what I mean? I feel like it needs a little more freedom. The guys maybe need a little more freedom. Maybe Greg is so old school that sometimes so old school is too old school. You know what I mean?
Oh, we know.
Old school is the greatest, but you got to create an excitement with your fans. You need an energy. And that's the only thing I can say about that show. And like I said, I've never been there live, so until I experience it live, I don't know how the energy is in the building live, but I know when I'm watching the footage and the things I've heard. Look, here's something. A guy went to work for Greg Anthony a year or so ago. All right, Greg Anthony seen this guy, liked him enough to book him, want him on his shows, but then when the guy gets there, the word I got was, Greg didn't want him to wear what he normally wore, which he had boots, he had tights, had a nice vest, everything. His gear looked good. He wanted him to wear a singlet. Well, my theory is if you book this guy on the premise that you seen him, you liked what he did in the ring, you evidently you like him enough to want him on your shows, why would you then take that same guy and pretty well by putting him in a singlet, you kind of strip his gimmick away from him and his personality?
Yeah,
Because,
make a new character out of him. What he's trying to do.
well, if you like him enough to get him in there and book him, you're not Vince McMahon. If you like him enough and you seen him being who he is, then why wouldn't you want that same guy on your show? You thought he was good enough to be for you to book him. So you seen what he looked like, you seen what he does, you seen his gear, you seen him work. Why would you then immediately want to change him? I don't know. It don't. If I see a guy that I like on my show, if I'm running the show and I see a guy I like and I want to book, well, I'm booking him because I liked what I saw. I don't want to bring him in and take him out of this and put him in a singlet so he looks more like a real wrestler. I mean, dude had nice boots, nice gear, nice vest, good worker in the ring. If you like that, why wouldn't you want to bring that and put on your show the same way you've seen it? Because I always, whether it's putting a match together or anything, I always put myself in a fan's position. If I'm putting a match together, I always try to put it together from what would pop me, what I would like to see. What can we do out here and how can we do it that would make me pop for it? Because I've seen it all, 100 times. This is wrestling. We're basically all doing the same shit. It's more about the different ways you do it, who puts what together a certain way, how you do a certain move, because it's all the same moves over and over. And I always try to match or even booking from a fan standpoint. What would pop me if I was sitting in the audience? What would get me off if I seen it and they done it? And
the thing is, down there, we worked a show there years ago, and before we went out through the curtain, we had to keep it PG. So we run more of a PG/G rated crowd because we got out there and it was a very reserved crowd. My opinion. Me and Classy were out there on the apron, kind of looking around, and it was very almost scripted crowd. You had to interact with the crowd to even get them to react to a backdrop, a body slam, an arm drag, whatever you want to call it. It kind of was hard to get the crowd involved till the end of the match, and that's how that worked out.
Here's the thing. One thing I've learned is you go to places that are not wrestling towns. And you go to a place that's had wrestling for years and years on and off, different companies in their wrestling. It's a wrestling town. You pretty much go in there at any time and the fans will be with you. But if you go in a place that's not really a wrestling crowd, and you have to educate these fans to what they're seeing. I mean, it might take a couple of shows. Look, here's the thing. It's better to have 200 people sitting there that paid for their tickets that in your head you think, well, they're not reacting hard, but they're sitting there watching. If you run your next show and then people come back, they liked what they saw. It's just a matter of them being there long enough, figuring out who everybody is, what everybody's doing, and why, and just being educated to what wrestling is. Because local wrestling ain't the same thing that people see on TV. I mean, it just ain't. People who only watch WWF, AEW, and all these big time promotions with all this money and big production. Well, if this person ain't never been a local, if you ain't never grown up on CWA, USWA, WWCW, all these different places, Georgia Championship Wrestling, if you know nothing about these places, then you're not really educated to wrestling. You might like wrestling, but when you go to these kind of shows, it might take you a little while for them to be educated to what they're seeing. But once you get them educated, you got them. I mean, I'd rather have a crowd sitting on their hands, but the next time we show up, the same amount came or more even, because you did something right and they liked what they saw, whether they were exploding for shit or not, 3 months down the line, they will be popping when they're supposed to, you know?
All right, next one on my list is EIW. We'll skip over it. We already kind of touched bases on that one. Excuse me. Let's go to TIWF. Randy Bird there. Been there probably 15. Let's see. He moved there in 2007, 2008, I believe. So he's been there ever since. Puts on a great show. Seen a lot of talent come in and out. A lot of bookers go here and there. But one thing about it, Randy Bird has survived. And moving from Jackson, Tennessee, in that 100-seat arena that we did in a alley in a bad, terrible location, to a building there in Trenton, Tennessee was the best thing that TIWF and Randy Bird could ever do. Props to Randy. I love TIWF. Holds a special heart to me. So I look to my left and see my TIW Hall of Fame plaque. I just love TIWF and think they're going to keep going, man, no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can see they're ready for the fight no matter who comes in. Memphis tried to go in there and run a show. EIW has been in there. One thing about it is TIWF will survive.
Man,
Yeah, they will.
I have nothing but good things about TIWF. I like Randy. I like TIWF because there's not a whole lot of pressure. Like you said, there's always talent fluctuating in and out. You got your regulars, but there's enough talent coming in and out and back and forth that it don't really get that stale. There ain't no time when you're sitting there watching the same match for the 13th fucking time. Randy's easy to work for. See, I worked for Randy when him and his brother first started this thing. Me and my brother worked for Randy. We worked for him. Like I said, he ran Brighton a few times for a while. We worked for him there. We worked for him in Brownsville a few times. So I've known Randy probably since 1993, something like that. I just recently reconnected with him. Like we hadn't been face to face until a few months ago when I started going over to TIWF filming. And a lot of people don't know, but back in October, I had to have some surgery, which kind of threw my whole thing off the rail, you know. But TIWF, I had to go away from it. Ever since the surgery, I really hadn't. I went and done a couple of those, but I hadn't got back on track, and I don't know that I'm going to do a whole lot of filming shows anymore because it just.
Hey, we're not done yet.
Well, here's the thing: you spend a lot of money over the last 2 years. I've spent a ton of money going to these shows and filming, and I've filmed. You know, I filmed for free. Until here recently, I filmed every place I went for free for the content. But you know, there comes a point when I really keep throwing money down this hole. You know what I mean? I mean, I like it, but I can't say that I hadn't started getting bored. I really loved it at first, but the last few months of it, I had started getting bored with going and filming shows. I don't know whether I was just burnt out or whatever, and I kept feeling bad from the problems I had that I had to go have surgery for. My gallbladder had. One night out of nowhere, I had the worst indigestion, what you thought was indigestion. And when I say indigestion, I'm talking about it's like somebody took a fucking air pump and stuck it up my ass, and it was all the air was laying up under my chest. Heart attack feeling stuff, but I'm hard headed. I don't go to the doctor. I don't go to the hospital. So I waited until it started about 6 o'clock a Tuesday, a Monday night, and I didn't go to the doctor until 6 o'clock. Went to the emergency room 6 o'clock Wednesday.
Damn.
Went and had all the tests done. They figured out my gallbladder had some stones in it, some sludge, and had air in it. And what it had done, it had been backed up into my pancreas. And then in turn, my pancreas had pushed some of the stuff into my body, which is poison. And it was basically eating up my organs. So I went to the emergency room. They figured out my gallbladder needed to go, and they figured out that I had pancreatitis. The thing about it was they couldn't take the gallbladder until they got my white blood cell level right and got the pancreatitis down. So 4 days, I was in the worst fucking pain I've ever had. They had me on Dilaudid every 2 hours.
Oh, shit.
Look,
I guess what they gave my dad before he died.
Dude, it would knock me out for about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half. and then right back up hurting like hell. I mean, I hurt constantly from the time it started till I woke up from my surgery.
Golly, Rusty.
Hours on the water for like 4 days. And the thing about the gallbladder I didn't realize is that it helps the things you eat, your food and stuff. Your gallbladder helps in the digestive system. So after I had it removed, dude, I didn't eat but one meal a day for probably 2 months. Now, finally, I've come out of it, and anything I eat would run right through me. But my doctor told me, he said, look, you're going to have some, I mean, you're going to have to really, you're going to have something you're going to deal with for the next 6-8 weeks, you know, at least. And sure enough, I did. And when I say, I mean, like I said, sometimes I didn't even eat a meal a day. One meal a day at the most for probably 2 months. Sometimes I didn't even eat. And these meals are small. When I say meals, sometimes you take a couple of bites and boom, that's it. But by the grace of God, I'm feeling good. I'm healthier now. All my shit, all my levels, my numbers are all good.
That's good news.
I didn't realize, but the doctor told my wife, he said, look, if he'd have waited another day, he'd probably died.
Damn.
And see, I didn't know that. I mean, I'm hard-headed. I'm come from the old school of, I don't go to the hospital or doctor for shit. I got to be almost dead, and apparently I was. I finally gave in and went, you know. But I had got bored with shows. There was only a couple of shows that I really enjoyed doing. I always enjoy TIWF. I always enjoy AHCW. The only problem with AHCW is the Missouri shows, some of them from where I live here in Tennessee. Some of them's long trip. A couple of those shows that were done on up in Missouri.
Like Donovan.
Me and the whole family came, but I actually ended up renting a motel room and everything. In time you rent your motel room, and if you got 5 of us, you have to rent whatever they call a suite at the Holiday Inn or somewhere like that has something like that. You know, a little bit of a living room area, a couple of beds. Some of them even have the bed separated from the living room and the little kitchenette thing and stuff. But a lot of times, I mean, time we paid for food and everything over for one show, you're talking. Time we get back home, gas and everything, we just spent $300, $400, $500, you know. And even local shows. I mean, I've just put out a lot of money over the past 2 years since I'm doing it, and I had got bored with it. I'll be honest with you. I loved it at first, but I got bored with it. Of course, a lot of the shows are the same shit every single show. You know, before I switched to TIWF, I mean, I'm not out here to beat EIW down. Truthfully, I hope they move out of Trenton and move somewhere, and I hope they succeed. I like EIW. It was really the first place that I kind of said, I started filming at NWF out of Arkansas. Ronnie Spence's show.
God bless you.
I had a connection there, and you know,
who's your connection, Terry?
Me and Ron's known each other for a long time too.
Ron's a good guy. He just needs to learn how to run a show.
So I started there, but I kind of set down roots in Newbern with EIW, and I stayed there. Look, I've got over probably almost 300 EIW matches out on YouTube on my channel. That's a lot of time. I spent probably about 1.5 years solid with them over there. I mean, I still do a few other shows here and there, but overall, I mean, every week there. And I mean, after a while, you start seeing the same match. When you done seen the same match, and it's getting the same match done happened 13, 14 times over the past year. I mean, you know, you get there and you're like, I mainly get there set up, and I'm just ready for it to be over and get the fuck back home so I can start putting these videos up, you know. And I don't know what I'm doing. I tell you what, I like to write. Writing seems to be one of the things I enjoy a whole lot. And like I said, 2023 for me is the year of I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Here's the thing. When I
Hey,
started,
let's move on before you get into that I don't give a fuck attitude.
hit me with the next remark.
uh, hey, let's talk about the new kids on the block. Premier Pro Wrestling out of Dyer, Tennessee. Using a lot of top talent in the area. Got a fire department building they're using. And what are your thoughts on Premier Pro there, guys?
Go ahead, Mike. Go on.
Most of the guys there, they work with us, several of our shows. And them guys are young and hungry, and they're putting in the miles, the work. Aaron Roberts, for example, man, that kid right there, he's done nothing but just grow over this last year. When he was teaming with Zay and the Young Goats, I thought this team right here, man, they're spectacular. But I just had some in my mind that they were better individually, that they could accomplish more in different directions. And right now they're both doing what they need to be doing and focusing on their careers because, Zay's in a good place. Aaron's running the top of the call right now. And it ain't nothing for Zay to jump up there and get on top of Aaron and then end up taking us to another level. That's my opinion. You got the guys, the veterans that are still there helping these young guys. And I think Power Pro, is going to do something special around Power Pro. That's just my opinion.
Legacy Pro.
Premier Pro.
Premier Pro, sorry.
Yeah.
Premier Pro, Power Pro. One more again.
They are definitely stacking the roster. Here's the thing, though. When you start stacking it the way it's been being stacked, like this coming up show is stacked, it also comes with a pretty hefty price tag at the end of the night.
PO. You better have a lot of sponsors.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and that's great because that's one thing. That's how Ron Spence really survived period one show.
Absolutely.
Got a lot of sponsors. He makes a lot of money off sponsors, and hey, if you can get them, I'm all for you. I like all their talent. I'm the same way about you with Aaron. I think Aaron and Zay both are people that if they went down to if they made a point to put their faces out there at AEW and show up anywhere they're doing fuck tapings and shit, I think both of them could probably easily walk away with a contract.
Absolutely.
Whether they never got on the real show and only eventually wrestled on Dynamite. Here's the thing. Say on the minimum side, they could get a contract for $60,000 apiece. I would be willing to bet that's probably more than either one of them's making at the real job. It ain't like AEW is running a ton of house shows or anything. I mean, it's probably a pretty padded job. They probably get flew out however often they do the tapings, get flew out. They might be flew out live for Dynamite or whatever. That don't mean they'll get used like WWF. A lot of guys in the back that don't ever get used. But
Blake Christian took a leap of faith, and that kid, he's probably one of the top independent wrestlers in the world.
I like
They're booking him around the globe.
Yeah, he'll be in Memphis coming up.
Yeah, I saw that. He's going to be in Memphis.
Here's the thing. I like that kid. I actually had the chance to go here a while back. EIW brought him in. I think it may be it was in their building, but this is after I left.
He started over at EIW TIWF.
He did.
I had the opportunity to go and film the night he was there if I wanted to, but I was already committed to Randy at TIWF, and it just ain't what I do. I mean, I'd love to have got him on film, but I'm not going to jump ship over just because one guy is going to be there one night. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it just ain't what I do. Aaron Roberts, hell of a talent. Zay, hell of a talent. Denzel Rollins, another one. Talent.
Jack Parker Jr., another one.
Jack Parker Jr. is one of the main ones that I believe if he would go down there, he could definitely walk away with a contract. Some of these guys, I think, are missing the boat by not just going and taking that chance.
But that kind of falls back to that sponsorship. A lot of people understand a lot of these guys have regular jobs. And they love wrestling. It's their passion. But they understand the world still goes around in a circle. And it ain't going to pay the house note. It ain't going to pay the car note. It ain't going to pay the light bill. You still have to work. And I wish some of these guys were able to get these sponsorships that deserve to fulfill their passions because they're young enough. They're hungry enough.
Here's the thing. Take the sponsorship out of the way. Wrestling's a business of opportunity. You have to put yourself in the line of sight most of the time for opportunity to come. You know, if you're a nobody and you're trying to make it, then it's more of your job to make sure these people see you and hopefully see something they like in you and want to use. Wrestling's a business of opportunity. You have to take the chance sometimes. Stone Cold Steve Austin had a lot of fucking jobs before he actually made it as a wrestler. And even while he was a wrestler, even on USWA and shit, he was still having to work a regular job. Come down here from Texas, find a regular job that he could work a little bit and make enough money to try to live, to basically pay for him to wrestle. Because it ain't like he was getting paid that much. It wasn't like he was getting paid enough to even closely live on.
$40 a show.
But the chance,
$40 a show.
Sometimes you gotta throw caution to the wind and go for that opportunity. If you believe in yourself enough, sometimes it's better to go for the opportunity because if it comes, it could change your life forever, dude.
Right.
You know.
All right, let's talk about the two fish in the sea, if you will. The two big fish on the pond, the two TV deals, Memphis Championship Wrestling and Bluff City Wrestling. Of course, you know, you talk about JPJ, and I believe, and I've told him this 100 times behind the scenes, that he's getting held down in Memphis Championship Wrestling, man.
Agreed 100%.
Memphis Wrestling's doing some great things. Brought TV wrestling back to Memphis. You look at the views, they got a lot of views and good storylines and everything. They're doing things the right way, bringing Memphis back for sure.
Here's the thing: a lot of guys have tried to do what Doc so far has accomplished, and he's still growing too. From what I can tell, I hear a lot of people talk about he ain't making no money. Well, I'm gonna tell you a little secret. Of course, you know this, like you. I'm sure you do too. The difference, as many people as they bring in, and that people bitch about that too. But if it works for Dustin's business model, how can you fault a dude doing something that's working for him and making him money? But you can't pay Booker T. You can't pay Thunder Rosa. You can't pay Lance Archer. You can't pay Tommy Dreamer. You can't pay all these people if there's not enough money there to do it. Unless you fucking rich and you just want to throw money away. So, I don't know nothing about it, the business end of Dustin stuff, but I pretty well believe he's got some money coming in from this wrestling thing. There's no way around it. Bluff City, it's kind of like Premier Pro. I'm going to do some rankings coming out of the companies around the area. The problem is, I went to writing these fucking companies down. I'm only really going to rank the companies that I'm familiar with, where I either keep up with from TV, YouTube, Facebook, or that I actually have been to and know about personally. Because I don't feel comfortable rating companies that I don't know nothing about their product. Because how do I rate them? I can't put you up top because I've already kind of got an idea of these companies that are up here and why they're up here. I don't know anything about your product, so I can't put you there. And I don't want to put you down here because then if I go to getting familiar with the product and realize, well, shit, they deserve to be up here further, you know. I'm not going to rank any companies that I don't have a little bit of familiarity with, however it goes. You know what I'm saying? And there's going to be some honorable mentions. Premier Pro, not going to be in the rankings for the fact of the matter, they ain't running enough shows. I mean, we don't know how long they're going to be in business, and they ain't running enough shows. Another company, Legacy Pro, not going to rank yet because they hadn't been in business long enough and run those shows. But now, on the other hand, I am going to rank SPW for the simple fact that even though Legacy Pro and SPW kind of started close to the same time, SPW is probably a month before, they ran every week, so there's more of a track record to me to judge them and be able to rank them. Bluff City, I hadn't decided yet because here's the thing, if I do throw them in the rankings, it will 100% only be because they have TV, good TV. No other reason, because I hadn't seen enough of their product, and they hadn't been running long enough for me to make that kind of call.
I think they
So
got like 10 episodes out there now, maybe. I don't
I
know.
think they've
Somewhere
got
right now.
Something like that.
now, and I hadn't decided whether they're going to make the cut or not. But if they do, it will only be because they've got the good TV time. They got a good TV time slot.
I got a great TV spot.
It's nothing personal against them, nothing personal against anybody's talent, but I just don't have enough track record to look at to make a proper judgment. And here's the thing: these rankings are only going to be my opinion, so they really only carry as much weight as anybody gives them. You know what I mean? If you don't like where your company's ranked and you get butthurt about it, it don't matter because, I mean, it ain't like it's an official ranking. It's just my opinion on, from my experience, who I think are the top where they rank at, you know? Simple as that. Bluff City, I just don't know, dude. I just don't know I will say this, the last couple of shows, now this last week was more of a tailback show, a review show, but the couple before that was a little better than some of the early on ones, but there's still a lot of inconsistencies going on in that show. There's a lot of Johnny Dotson's a baby face, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he's heel now. You know? Why? How did we miss that? What did we miss somewhere? Why is he heel? You know? It don't make no sense to me. But, I mean, obviously, out of the TV products around here, there's no doubt that Dustin has to be number one. Just simple as that. And let me ask you this, because I don't know for sure, EPW out of Mississippi, do they not have some local TV?
They do.
Actual TV. So see, I try to keep up with them as much as I can on YouTube, whatever I see on Facebook.
You see a lot of their talent in Memphis too, like the Hot Shots, Brett Michaels,
yeah,
and
Jimmy Blaylock.
They have to be in there for me because they actually have a good track record.
Yeah, they've been around.
Yeah, they've been around. They do draw some highly decent crowds a lot of times. You know, it ain't like wrestling to nobody most of the time. Most of the time, they've got good crowds. So they have to be in there. But there's going to be so many that's not because there's just so many, man. I went to writing them down, and I think these rankings, my old lady asked me, says, well, how you going to do a top 10? I said, when did I say I was going to do a top 10? I just said I was going to rank the local wrestling promotions in Memphis, around the Mid-South area. And that, when I say that, I mean from a vicinity of Memphis, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Missouri. I'm not ranking Harley Race's company on up in Missouri. I'm only ranking companies that are in our
viewership.
Yeah, you know, and like I said, it only holds these rankings. If you get mad about them,
hey, give us something to talk about, right? If they get mad, give us something to talk about. Hey, we've been going about an hour and 30 minutes. We're going to wrap everything up here. We got a lot more to talk about, so we'll do this again next week. Join us for episode 2 of No Mask, Buster Uncovers. You can tell right now, Buster loves to talk wrestling, baby. He said a lot today. We'll see what kind of heat he gets, and thanks all for joining us now. We'll see you next week.
All right, guys. Good to see you.
I enjoyed it, fellas. Next time, baby.